Hi everyone, Deb here. It's at the end of a very long day and I'm really tired. I'm looking tired and disheveled. Uh, I just really wanted to come and talk to y'all this evening, and hopefully I'll be an encouragement to y'all. Definitely want to caution you on some things that I feel like are going around um, in the lives of believers that we need to be aware of. We need to examine situations and the people that we are putting in our lives. So, um, my children and I have been trying to follow the way. And when I say that, that's what the Old Testament calls the law. The law is called the way, the truth, and the life. And Yeshua is the way, the truth, and the life. And that shouldn't be a conflict, because in the New Testament it also calls him the Word. And the Word came to many people in the Old Testament. Jeremiah, Zechariah. um, I had three or four of them in my head, and now it just went bye bye. Anyway, um, we've been hanging out with some Torah observant people. Not that following the law is what your salvation is in, but just wanting to be obedient when Yahweh says that these things were an everlasting covenant. I think he meant forever. When he said forever and everlasting, I think he meant that. So anyway, we had a couple families that we were fellowshipping with for, I want to say, a year and a half, maybe almost 2 years. And we'd hang out with them on the Sabbath, maybe once a month or a couple times a month. We would read the Torah portion and eat with them and such. So, at the end of this 2-year period, we had given each other gifts, and the wife of one of the families was just such a sweet, sweet, loving person, and we just all really, really liked her. Well, she had got a milk cow, and for about 6 months maybe, she was giving us milk. So unprocessed milk. And before that, I had been buying unprocessed milk, and I was trying my hand at making our own cheeses so that we wouldn't have cheese that had pork in it, because we don't eat pork anymore. And so she would tell me that she just milked the cow that day and that it was really fresh that she was giving me. But it was only lasting maybe 3 or 4 days, and I couldn't get the milk made in time with my work schedule. And it was just really puzzling to me, because when I would buy that same kind of product, the not pasteurized milk, the fresh milk from the co-op, it would last a really long time, like longer than regular store pasteurized milk. So, it could be 3 weeks easy. So when it's not lasting 3 or 4 days, it started to be a little bit of a red flag for me. I was like, what is going on? She's got to be lying, because non-processed milk lasts a long time. There's more fat in it, and that's probably part of the reason. So, anyway, we go over there to I tell my daughter, I'm just not going to get any more milk from her. So we take all the jars back, and we go over to her house, and, and we're hanging out with them, and they wanted to just sit around and talk. So we talked to them for a little bit. And I hadn't told her that I wasn't going to get any more milk from her. I hadn't said anything about it yet. And anyway, they were telling us different things, like If you find money on the ground, don't pick it up because a witch could have cursed it. Um, they were telling me that, a lot of times witches will give you um, an alcoholic beverage, and they would have prayed over it and it would be cursed. And they went through, I don't know, several different things like that. And so the husband tells me that some witch that he knew told him that he was untouchable. And I guess because of his aura. And he meant, he's like, I'm untouchable. He tells me a couple of times. And I'm just kind of thinking to myself, why is that important? And why is he telling me about his aura? And I'm thinking about all these things. And when they went through the list of different things that witches will give you and they prayed over it and cursed you, they had given me 4 of the items on the list. And I looked at them. I made excuses. I got to go home and make dinner. And I looked at them and I said, you do realize that you gave me 4 of the things that you just mentioned. And I laughed. And everyone laughed. And I got in the car with my daughter, and we drive down the road, and I'm like, don't you think that's weird? That they gave us 4 of the items that they were just saying that witches will curse? And my daughter's like, are you saying that she's a witch? I'm like, I'm saying maybe. She's like, no, I love Susan. And I'm like, I do too. So, but the more I thought about it, the more I was like, that is really odd behavior. And then I started thinking about the time that we've spent with them. And we had been with them, like I said, somewhere between 1.5 to 2 years, and never prayed for anyone. We never prayed for anyone's needs as a group. And right before we left, the husband, his brother had cancer and he was dying. And it was just fast and it was bad and strong and on him. And so there were 3 different weeks that we got together, and I said, hey, we need to pray for your brother. We need to pray for his healing. And they didn't ever do it. Also, I know that I was telling the husband of Family One that just about some dream that Yahweh had given me. And I noticed he rolled his eyes and looked at me with disdain, like he didn't like me talking about the dream. And so there was a couple times that I spoke to dreams, because one was about them and how the foundation of their house wasn't attached to the rest of the house. And how there wasn't a lock on the door and different things. So anyway, when I really thought about all these things, I was thinking, you know what? They probably are witches. I know that they had suggested movies to us, and one of which, and I'm not going to say what the movie was, because then you might go and watch it, and it's a wicked movie. And, we wished afterwards that we hadn't watched it, and I don't even know if we watched the whole thing all the way through, but they had told us that it was something about the fallen angels, but it was it's just not good. It was not good for us to see, and it didn't clear up any kind of ideas about the fallen angels. It was dumb. And that wasn't the only one. I know that during the time frame that there was at least 2 movies and maybe 3 that they had recommended. Now there was only one that I think there's only one that we sat all the way through, and the other ones we were like, no, we're not doing that again. So, yeah, when I just started really sitting back and weighing things, I was like, they probably are witches. And I know that they infiltrate the church sometimes, but being a home fellowship, I hadn't thought that they would. So I just want to caution you all. When I did figure out that they probably were witches, I had to get rid of everything that was given to us. So I threw out a bunch of stuff and I gave away stuff. Tubs and different things. So this same 2 families are the ones that told us about a place that we could go and celebrate Feast of Tabernacles. In the Torah observant community, people call it Sukkot, which is it's like the Hebrew version of Feast of Tabernacles. So we went to this Sukkot, and this year was the 3rd time we went to Sukkot. And this particular Sukkot is in Oklahoma. And I don't really want to say more than that because I'd like to protect myself. Just a little bit. Anyway, the first year that we went, it was so awesome. And it was just really awesome to be around other people that believed the Old Testament was for us and relevant, and it just really felt like a safe environment, and we really just enjoyed ourselves. The second year, and the first year, I was too tired to go to the special music night, special talent night, so I opted to just take a nap and not go. Well, the second year I did go, and the third year I went. So the second year and the third year, I believe my daughter sang a song. So of course I was there because my daughter was going to sing a song. So other people at the camp who didn't go, didn't have young people performing, would never know that this stuff went on. So I can't say, that everybody at the camp, was negligent or accepting of things that I think are crappy. But let me finish telling you. So year 2, we go, Sasha sings a song, and then we're watching the rest of the acts, and it's a big auditorium, lots and lots of little kids there, people of all ages. And this one particular act starts, and when this act starts, like, all the lights went out, and then there was just a spotlight on the individuals walking in, and they are walking in single file, males and females. They're dressed in sort of like you would go to the Renaissance Fair, but having been to the Renaissance Fair back in the 90s when I was much younger, the outfits that the girls were wearing definitely heading towards the witchcraft. Back in the 90s when I went, there was like a little section that I could always avoid that was like witches and palm readers and stuff like that. So they dressed a certain way. So the girls are heading down the guys, single file. The guys all have weapons strapped on their backs. I think maybe a couple might have had knives on their waist or whatever. but mostly I think they were strapped on their backs. So they marched down the aisle, and then they get in a circle, and then they play a song called The North Star. And I don't know if you ever saw my videos. I did a couple on angels being stars, stars as angels, and where you can see it in the Bible. So they're playing this Northern Star song. They kneel to the Northern Star. They lift up their swords and their arms to the Northern Stars. To the Northern Star. And I'm getting really upset because, the Bible even talks about Yahweh getting mad because they were worshiping the star of Remphan. So I know he's not okay with star worship. And this is why he has the one commandment not to worship any graven image, of things above or things in the sea or things on earth. We're not supposed to have any graven image or worship any image. So that's year 2. I'm really upset, but I'm like, what can I do? Then I also see these same young people like doing a parade around the entire campground. And I thought to myself, it seems like that could be like a little prayer thing going on. A prayer march. But is it a prayer march for Yahweh, or is it a prayer march for the Northern Star witchcraft stuff? And I was concerned. And shortly thereafter, we all got COVID and got really, really sick that second year. Now, on the third year, they did the same Northern Star dance, and they did another act that upset me. And they had done this act the year before, but it wasn't as graphic as this year. So this year, there were 2 hooded demonic figures, and there was like a young man sitting on a chair, and the 2 demonic figures are controlling him and making him drink, and they even like tie him up, and I'm like, this is like bondage and stuff. This is horrible. And everything in me is wanting to stand up and yell, no! This shouldn't be at Sukkot. Need hooded figures with demonic mask face doing this act. It's Sukkot. I had, I think, 4 little girls behind me in various ages, 7, 9, in that area. And they're like, ooh, that's creepy. Oh, that's creepy. And it's all dark with just a spotlight on what's going on at the front. And so they like depict him drinking lots of alcohol, that the demons have got a handle on the young man, and they're all into it. It was scary. And there's like babies starting to cry and scream, and they're not happy. And at the very, very last minute of this act comes a young lady dressed in white, and she runs toward the young man that's sitting in the chair, and she flicks her hand one way, and that demon runs off and runs down the aisle scaring people. And then she flicks her other hand the other way, and the other demon runs off down the other aisle, like scaring people. And I was hating it. So then the next day, it's like, I think it's like late morning, after breakfast. And I'm coming out of the clubhouse and I see one of the young men. Actually, I see several of the young men all dressed in like warfare attire from, say, Middle Ages, Renaissance fair type, with their hoods on, some of them with their hoods on. And the one guy that I saw had like over one of his eyes the hurricane symbol drawn. And I was like, oh no, here we go again. We're going to get the parade again. You know, the bagpipes and them marching around in their Ren Fair clothes, blowing their shofars. And sure enough, that is what happened. They did their little parade again. And I started to feel bad. And I tried to rest. I tried to take a nap. And I couldn't breathe. You know, I had my CPAP machine on and I couldn't breathe well. And there have been lots of times that I feel like there's a demonic attack through the CPAP machine, and I'll tell any demonic forces that are in there, any wicked, vile spirits attacking me through this machine, to get out in the name of Yahuwah Elohim and Yeshua HaMashiach, and then gone. It'll stop. I've heard voices coming through it before. Just the things that are electronics, you know, the prince of the power of the air, he likes them. So I couldn't get it to stop. And when I would walk in to hear a teacher, I'd be so tired that I couldn't hear anything that he was saying. That is often a spirit of stupor that'll come on you. And then I would go back to camp. I'd try and take a nap, but I'd be like wide awake and couldn't sleep. And I'd try to cast that spirit of stupor off, and it wouldn't go. And I just got frustrated. And after enduring a really terrible storm one night, in our tent, and knowing that it was going to get down to 28 the next night, I said, you know what, I gotta go. And I left. And my daughter, having lots of friends there, she wasn't ready to leave, and she stayed. And she was fine when I left her. About 3 hours later, she called me. She was sick. She had a fever. And I wasn't feeling well either. But I didn't get COVID or anything like the year before. Anyway, I tell you guys all this to tell you, just like Harry Potter came into the church at large and basically destroyed it, there's witchcraft coming into the believers' lives now and trying to destroy the remnant from within. What I noticed, what I did was I confronted these people as a camp. I didn't go to one person because it was a group. I had interactions with one of the fathers of the whole North Star dance, and he had been really, really rude to me on year one, and I thought he was sketchy and maybe a witch from year one. And so anyway, I did confront the situation on Facebook because I wanted to reach as many of the people in the camp as I could, that witchcraft should not be allowed in our camp. It should not be allowed at the Feast of Tabernacles. It should not be at Sukkot. We should not have demons and people running around in hooded cloaks at Sukkot. Sporting weapons. I just don't think we need that. So, the leadership got really upset at me. And I had several people tell me that I should have done Matthew 18 and gone one-on-one. But they kept suggesting that I should have gone to the father of the children who did this stuff. Well, I wasn't upset at him. He wasn't even in those things. But, the father at the beginning of Sukkot, all 3 times, he, with his children, do worship songs. So they do kind of nice, fun worship songs. The first day 1 and day 2, or day 1 and day 3, something like that. And then later, it's Northern Star and the demonic depiction. So anyway, there is a huge surge right now towards evil things and evil ways, and not Yahweh's ways. And what I want to caution you is to keep your eyes open. What I noticed is, when I was little, churches were totally full. They were totally full of people. And then, like in the 90s, there was the whole Harry Potter phenomenon. And some of my pastors were trying to expound on biblical truths using Harry Potter stuff. And I went to one of my pastors and I'm like, what are you doing? Witchcraft is an abomination. Why are you promoting Harry Potter from the pulpit? Why are you using it as an illustration? And of course, I pretty much got the left foot of fellowship. But what I watched from that period on was the amount of people in the church diminishing, so that now that's maybe like 5 or 10% of the seats are filled, where when I was little they were totally filled, and a lot of times there were overflow rooms where those were half full. So my caution is to caution you against, to caution you about the witchcraft. These people were very, very nice. Both the families, well, not the one family, it's a coat, but the ones that did the worship, super nice, right? And the 2 families that we were involved with, super nice. And I also wanted to caution you about Freemasons. So family 1 that I was talking about was witchcraft problem. And then right at the same time that we're learning, or I should say right before, when we're learning about them being witches, family number 2, husband, lets us know that, yeah, he had said something a couple of times that it just didn't really click, that he had a key to the Mason Hall for years. They let him have a key. And it finally had clicked to me that, hey, maybe he was a Mason, because I don't think they give keys to just anyone. I think you have to be a Mason to have a key to the Mason Hall, right? And he had told me that his dad was a Mason, and so he's kind of passing it off like they let him have a key because his dad was a Mason. But at the end, I was like, no, I don't think that's right. I'm not buying that. So anyways, I came across this scripture in Ecclesiasticus in the King James Version, because it was part of the KJV Bible a couple hundred years ago. Might have been part of the apocryphal section, but that doesn't mean anything but the unveiling. Anyway, it said, presents and gifts blind the wise man. And it just popped to me. I was like, oh my gosh, they were so nice to us, and they gave us gifts, whether it was physical gifts of milk or food or plants, or gifts of worship music that people are we were blinded by the gifts, and at Sukkot, people blinded by the worship music. What I also wanted to tell you about is this year when we were at Sukkot, those that were, there are those that were in authority there that let that stuff go on. I noticed a drastic change in them this year. Drastic. Before there was a lot of love, just the really loving. The one guy that was the most like a pastor there had been super, super kind to my son Jesse, who's 25 and autistic. He had been so nice to him, and then all of a sudden he just, like, he didn't care. Didn't acknowledge him, didn't talk to him, and Jesse had waited all year to see him. He had tried to talk to him on Facebook and stuff, and he wasn't responding, and it was just like, it was like a darkness had come upon some of the people there. And so what I felt the Father dealing with me a lot about this year was, yes, it was okay to learn some about the fallen angels through the Book of Enoch and different videos, that I had watched on YouTube. While that was okay, he didn't want me going too far in. He didn't really want me looking into Greek gods or false gods or learning about them, really. I got strongly cautioned. And so I would like to strongly caution you to watch out. You remember, hopefully you'll remember, there was this little video that my kids had when they were growing up, and it was like, be careful, little eyes, what you see. Be careful, little ears, what you hear. For the Father up above is looking down in love. So be careful, little eyes, what you see. Yeah. We just think that, oh, that's just for kids. We can handle it. We can watch whatever we want. No, we can't. And if we get too into trying to find out about witchcraft or fallen angels, if we try to learn too much about our enemy, get too into it, we can get sucked into it. Which also happened to, the wisest man on earth, Solomon. So don't think that you are above it. Be careful. We're getting tried really big time right now as the remnant. We're getting tested. And the devil's just throwing everything at us. So please be careful. And so I think I got to leave it just about here. But I did want to just say one thing, that I've seen several reports about the Euphrates River drying up. And if you read Revelations, you know that there are fallen angels chained underneath the Euphrates River, and that they are let out in the end times. And I want to say it's 1/3 of the people die when they're let out. So I think we're getting close to that. We could be, if the Euphrates River is drying up, which I saw photos of, videos of. So get your heart right with Yahweh and just be on your guard. Be on your guard, and don't be afraid to be alone. Yes, we're not supposed to forsake the fellowshipping of the saints. But when it gets down to it, make sure that you're not fellowshipping with people who aren't really saints, who are either duality or wolves in sheep's clothing. I just want you to be careful. I want you to continue to run the race and win on Judgment Day. So I know I didn't do my normal sharing a bunch of scriptures, but hopefully I'll be able to do that again real soon. And I hope this was a blessing to you. If you have experienced anything like this, it'd be great to get some feedback in the comments. So have a good evening. Bye-bye.